Hello, how are you doing? My name is Ismail Sneed, and it is week 7 of our art history class, which means it is time for our presentations and our speeches. My speech will be about 3 different types of art and how they impacted the world, why they are important, how they are similar, and how they differ. The 3 art types that I have selected are that of minimalism, pop art, and cubism. One common denominator that all of these 3 art types have in common is that they became popular throughout the 20th century. 2 of them in the later 20th century, and 1 of them in the early 20th century. The first art genre that we will cover will be that of cubism, which mainly became popular by that of Pablo Picasso. Cubism and people who paint cubism usually try and decompose realistic subjects into geometric shapes to give them a different form or perspective or impression. Replacing realistic subjects in paintings in a way that is geometric or different looking to most people gives the piece of art a different emotion and different approach feel to whoever is viewing the art. Although Cubism had been made famous by Pablo Picasso, the art style was actually really kick-started by Georges Braque in the summer of 1908. The painting seen here, the landscape of Les Stock, was the first real glimpse of Cubism, in which Braque got his inspiration from the older artist Paul Cézanne. Now, this oil canvas painting is not as geometric looking as other paintings, but it's really what got Cubism started. Cubism is more focused on painting, unlike that of minimalism, which seems to be more focused on sculptures, and pop art, which kind of is a compilation of different types of art. Where these 3 do meet, and the other 2 have in common with Cubism, is that they force the viewer to look at the art form in a different way, in an altered perspective, if you will. Next up, we have pop art, which became famous mainly in Great Britain first, after the Second World War. Pop art could actually be traced back to 1917, when the artist Marcel Duchamp asserted that any object could be considered an art form. Well, after the Second World War and in the 1950s, this became a new goal of artists. Also becoming popular in the United States thereafter, pop art is mainly drawing inspiration from sources in popular and commercial culture. One of the most famous and recognized pop art pieces would be the Maryland Diptych by the artist Andy Warhol in the year 1962. The thing that is very striking about this pop art piece is that you notice on the left the repeating Marilyn Monroe heads and how they slightly changed color and slightly changed boldness. And on the right, you see them only in black and white, and they look a little more distorted and a little less seeable on the right side rather than the left side. I feel this art piece is very important because it has 2 sides to it. The lively, more vibrant side, and the black and white and scary looking side. Marilyn Monroe was a very famous figure at the time, which makes this pop art itself. I think how this art piece in pop art itself differs from the other 2 art styles is that you can really tell what time period this art is from. It looks very post-war like, and it is easier to distinguish the time period than a minimalist structure or a geometric painting. And last but not least, we move on to the art genre of minimalism. The main thing that distinguishes this art type from the other 2 previously mentioned is that, other than, of course, being very simple, this art type doesn't necessarily need to appeal to a human emotion or evoke an emotion out of a human. These minimalist sculptures or paintings can simply just be seen as themselves, as rather just cool, or something to look at, or something interesting to see while you're observing a gallery. Minimalist sculptures and art types rather beg the question of, why is this here? or who put this here. But similar to all other art types, it's interpreted by the viewer by how they view it themselves and how they feel about it. The minimalist sculpture seen here is known as She Who Must Be Obeyed by the sculptor Tony Smith. Now, if you look and see at the sculpture, there is no she or no person themselves, just a structure that's bending in kind of like an arrow. Tony Smith, quoted in The Place of Art in the World of Architecture, 1980, says he always likes to look at the sites in the dark because he feels that a lot of the detail is eliminated and that people can grasp the major features better. The fact that viewing the minimalist sculptures rather in the daytime and the nighttime, or vice versa, could affect how the viewer experiences it shows that a simple sculpture that might not even have any meaning can affect everyone differently. All three of these art genres are famous and important for their own different reasons. Cubism, finding a different way to turn realistic things into geometric figures or geometric-like figures. Pop art, taking popular things from society and making them into art. And minimalism, an extreme form of abstract art using shapes and hard edges, mainly in sculptures. These art genres all have in common that they became famous during the 20th century. And even though they all have their different ways of accomplishing this, they all make the viewers look at the art in a different perspective.